Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Donny Lind Show presented by Educational Systems Federal Credit Union. My name is Adam Pohl. Well, Mount St. Mary's is rolling. The Mount has won 4 in a row. They are 8-3 in their last 11 games. We're going to look back at the final week of home games of the year at Knott Arena, wins over Niagara and Canisius. And then we look forward towards what is the final week of regular season basketball for the Mount, as the Mount is on the road trying to battle for positioning in the upcoming MAAC tournament as they'll take on Sacred Heart and Fairfield. We talk to the coach, Donny Lind, right after this as the Donny Lind Show starts now. We welcome you back here to our Donny Lind Show presented by Educational Systems Federal Credit Union. Again, my name is Adam Pohl, joined by Coach Lind. Coach, we're coming down the stretch as we talked a lot about last week, but let's look back at the week that was. It was really a fun weekend for the final weekend of games at Knott Arena, and hopefully the 2 wins, of course, Friday night against Niagara, Sunday against Canisius, can be a great springboard for you guys as you head towards Atlantic City.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've all year been, pushing and trying to, instill this idea that we want to be playing our best down the stretch, and you can't control it. Right, as a coach, you like to think, oh, well, we'll just control it so that at these last few games we'll be playing our best, and you can't do it. But we kept that messaging and kept focusing on improvement. And I thought, really the last 2 weeks, we've had some great practices. We've had guys that are really committed to improving. And even though we're not spending a ton of time on the court, the time has been very focused and very energetic. And, it's been a lot of fun to see the seniors, these older guys, lead the team through these practices that at this time of the year can feel monotonous at times. We're doing the same things where, everybody just wants to get to the game already. And, for this group, it's been fun to see, just a daily discipline and a daily intensity that, hey, this hour that we're on the court together, we're going to get better. And because of that, we were able to put 2 pretty good performances together back to back this weekend.
And they both had some similarities, big second half surges against Niagara. Your dominance down low was so apparent, over 50 points in the paint, so many of them from Luke McKeldin, who had a career high 25 points.
Yeah, I've been, preaching it all year. There's not many bigs, in this league and mid-major basketball better than Luke. And he got to show some of that dominance and his ability to dominate that game on Friday night. And he's patient, he's poised, he's got great skill. And then, obviously, the guys, everybody recognized that we have this advantage here. Let's make sure we press it. And, that unselfishness, we've talked about it a lot all year, Adam, that, we have a team that we might not have the same guy lead us in scoring back-to-back nights very often, but we've got 5 or 6 guys that could lead us in scoring and lead us to a win. And so when we recognize where our advantage is and then decide to press that advantage, we have different guys that can do it on different nights. And that night, certainly Luka played a huge role for us in the paint.
And one player that I feel has showed that unselfish nature so much here as of late is Arlandis Keys. Keys, has always been an outstanding jump shooter, but he's been so much more effective at driving the basketball, passing the ball. His assists are way up, and then he had back-to-back games with 6 steals, which is just an incredible number. Usually when you're counting on your hand how many steals somebody has, you don't have to go to the second hand. To do that in back-to-back games is wild. Keys just playing this all-court game has been enormous.
Yeah, Landis has really improved throughout the year, gotten better, but his focus has never wavered. He's been consistent trying to do whatever the team needs to win. And it's hard to go from a role player to a starter to one of the main contributors and still keep winning the focus, right? It's easier for role players to say, hey, I'm playing 10, 12, 15 minutes. I got to do whatever the team needs to win. When you're playing 30 minutes, it's a little easier to say, I'm going to go get a couple buckets right here. I'm going to work on my stat line. And Landis, has just consistently been focused on what does the team need for me to win. And, because of that, he's had a lot of great individual performances. Obviously he can really shoot, but like you said, he's improved so much as a playmaker, as a decision maker with the ball in his hand. His ball handling's improved. His turnovers are down. And, the thing that I've loved about Landis since we got him was, he just has a knack for making the winning play.
Yes.
Right. Maybe it's a steal. Maybe it's a big defensive rebound, at whatever, we'll say 6'1". He'll jump up there and go get it over the trees and just make sure he gets that rebound that we need to secure a win. And, he's playing like a senior who knows, he's got 2-3 more games guaranteed, and when we have multiple guys, with that mindset and that mentality. And when you have a team at the end of the year that is playing with that level of urgency, the sky's the limit. And, we got a lot of guys who are in their last season of college basketball and, they want to go out the way they want to go out. And so, Landis has really, and X have been leading that charge with the group. And, it's been fun to see their urgency and how that pays off on the court.
We talked about that second half surge against Niagara. You were tied at the half, came out with a big run immediately to start the second half. And then Canisius, it happens, doesn't it, on senior day? It's hard because it's an emotional day in so many ways. I even think about a player like Orlandis Keys because for Landis, he has not played in front of his family here at Knott Arena that often. And being from the Midwest, his family's here. It's just a different feeling. And here you were with 20 points at halftime. You were down by 8 with a minute left in the first half, scored the last 4 points of the first half kind of dramatically, and then went on an enormous run in the second half. The ability to find that next gear, I know, was enjoyable.
Yeah. We're trying to help these guys grow as human beings, and there's a thing in life about expectation, and if you, when you're at night, the night before the game or the night before a big sales call or whatever your thing is, and you're dreaming about how that's going to go, very rarely do you dream about reality, right? You dream about perfection. You dream about, hey, it's going to be senior day and I'm going to score 25 points and get 12 assists and, get 10 rebounds and have my first career triple-double. And my family, who hasn't been to a game here ever, are going to get to see all that. And, very rarely does that actually happen, and so when expectation and reality collide, it's difficult sometimes. And, there was a little bit of pressing, there was a little bit of trying to, force your way out of it. And then, the guys came out at halftime with a little bit more relaxation and a little bit more, just kind of making the plays that were in front of them. And Canisius played a part of it too. Their defense was stout early in the game and their switching bothered us a little bit and took us a little while to settle into. And, once we were able to, just be a little bit more comfortable, play a little bit more within ourselves and within the system. The guys, we were great, obviously, throughout that second half on both ends of the floor. And when you're great on both ends of the floor, you end up, taking a halftime deficit to a 20-plus point win.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return with Coach Lind, we'll take a look at the final week of the regular season. What is up ahead as the Mount will be on the road at Sacred Heart and then at Fairfield. That's coming up right after this.
The time has come. The steak and cheese sandwich is back at Roy Rogers. Savory or spicy, make it yours with your favorite fixins. Go big and upgrade to a large drink and holster fry for the full cowboy experience. Get it while you can. Steak and cheese is here for a limited time only. See you soon at Roy Rogers.
Great to have you back with us here on our Donny Lind Show, presented by Educational Systems Federal Credit Union. So, Coach, now it's kind of an unusual week in the opponents you have, number one, but also the fact that you really know you're going to be somewhere between 5, 6, or 7, and how you fare in this last game is going to tell the tale in that. So, before we jump into scenarios per se. Mount St. Mary's, you've won 8 of your last 11. The schedule has 2 games to start in MAAC play in December. Then you're kind of right in the middle of everything. And then you have these 18 games that are the final 18. It is kind of wild that your last 2 games of the year are against two teams that have not been a part of the first 16 games, right? You play at Sacred Heart. They're your first game of the year in MAAC play in the first week of December. And then the 20th and final game is your only time playing Fairfield this year.
Yeah, the league has a way of putting the schedule together. I'm not in that room. It's odd. It's a schedule oddity, and there's all those throughout the year. I was just watching the Sacred Heart game, and Anthony Arrington was still injured. AK was his first game back,
Yeah.
and Trey DeVoe was injured at that point. So we were a totally different team today than we were then. You can't gain too much when you look back so far ago, because you watch Sacred Heart's recent games, and they're a very different team as well.
Sure.
And so that's what happens throughout the year, right? When you play somebody December was 2nd or something like that, and then you play them again in late February. But one thing hasn't changed, and that Sacred Heart is an explosive offensive team.
Definitely.
They can really score the ball, and we're going to have to, really be locked in defensively to try to hold them down, and, then try to find some advantages for ourselves on the offensive end. We were able to score the ball in that first game against them, had a couple little droughts, but still got to, 80 points. And it's a team that, just requires your ultimate attention on the defensive end. Your defensive intensity has got to be ramped up, because there are so many scoring threats, and they space the floor really well, and there's multiple guys who will make deep threes. And so, it's a scout that you really got to put some time into to make sure that, there's just a level of urgency on the defensive end, which, compared watching that game and watching our games now, we're certainly a much more urgent defense, just day in and day out today than we were then. But we'll certainly have to bring that with us up to Connecticut.
Well, the nice thing, though, last year, right at the end of the year, the Mount had to play Quinnipiac and Fairfield on the road in consecutive weeks, which is in essence like making a 6 or 7 hour drive to the same exact place back to back.
Literally the same hotel.
Yeah, so to play both Sacred Heart and Fairfield, on the same weekend, stay in the same hotel basically and play 2 games on the road, it's not a bad thing. Fairfield has had a similar year to the Mount in many ways, in that the first half of conference play played a sub 500 record, and then here in the second half of conference play have been on a big winning streak.
Yeah, we've been 2 of the best teams over the second half of conference play, and so it'll be good. It'll be a good game. The thing they say, Fairfield, they did what a lot of coaches are afraid to do. They rolled a bunch of freshmen out there early in the season and took some lumps, and it might be a little cliche, but those freshmen aren't freshmen anymore.
Right.
They've played a ton of minutes. They are good players that are talented, that are now confident, and they're playing with a ton of confidence here late in the season. And so, we'll have to, it'll be nice that we'll, just be able to be in the same hotel for the weekend and, be a little hopefully comfortable, as we head in on Sunday to Fairfield. But, it'll be quite a test of our offense and defense. They're a good basketball team playing with a lot of confidence, and that's the way we're playing right now. So those are the type of games everybody wants at the end of the year. You want to play meaningful games in late February, early March. As you get into the tournament against another good team, and so we'll be prepared by the time we get to Sunday and ready to go against Fairfield.
And just to let you Mount fans know the scenarios per se of what is upcoming for Mount men's basketball here in the upcoming week. Of course, the Mount women as well will be in the MAAC tournament, both going alongside each other in Atlantic City. So in 2 weeks' time, or next week per se, the week following, it will be the MAAC tournament. If the men finish in the 7th place spot, then the first game would be on Thursday, and with a victory would then subsequently play on Friday. That would be March 5th and then 6th. If the men finish in 5th or 6th place, their first game would be on Saturday, March the 7th. The semifinals are on Sunday, March the 8th, and then the championship game will be on national television. It's going to be a 9 o'clock start, so prime time, kind of like the old Monday night football field for us East Coasters back in the day, but that'll be on Tuesday night, March 10th at 9 p.m. the women's final, the day earlier, the evening of Monday, March the 9th. Are plans already in the works, Coach, as far as practice schedules, how you kind of lead up towards the MAAC tournament in that way?
Yeah, obviously with playing Friday, Sunday, you take you'll take Monday off, and then you'll start preparing, right? Obviously, if you play Thursday, it's a little bit more urgent preparation, focusing on who we're playing and all that. If you end up playing on Saturday, you got a little bit more time for rest throughout the week to kind of get you ready and up there. But certainly there's all these milestones throughout the year, and certainly making the tournament is one, and now fighting for this bye is another one. And so it's a big week. It's a big week of preparation. It's a big week to prepare us and get ready to go play 2 really meaningful games to hopefully be able to put ourselves in that position to get that first round bye and not have to play till the weekend.
We're going to post right now kind of the look of the MAAC championships, where you go online and such to get tickets. But tickets are available. Hotels are available. It's a little bit different this year where the quarterfinals and semifinals are on the weekends. So it's easier as a fan to go travel. And we hope that you as a Mount fan can kind of put this in the calendar. It's going to be the same weekend every year in Atlantic City through 2031, but make those plans to be there and a part of the MAAC tournament in person in Atlantic City. We had a great showing from our Mount Faithful last year, did we not?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. They just came in early. They were there for game 1 and just grew and grew and grew throughout the weekend. And it'll be great. This year, we're looking forward to having, as many Mount fans as we can make that trip and get down there to support us. We have some of the best fans in the league, and, they showed that all year, home and on the road, and we're excited to have them in Atlantic City.
Now, this is a little commentary from me, but last year I felt like the league was like, wow, there's so many people here. And I was like, well, that's because Mount St. Mary's is in the final, right?
Yeah, no doubt. They don't, there's still a feeling out period between the MAAC and the Mount. And there's not quite always the understanding of just what Mount fans, how much they love Mount basketball. And it's one of the things that makes this such a special place. And one of the things that I'm so appreciative of being the head coach here is that we have so many loyal fans that, obviously support us at home, but make the drive to support us on the road that,
yes.
Whether we're in, Philadelphia or we're in, Connecticut or we're in Ohio, there's always people that are really proud of their Mountaineers. And it's been fun to be a part of this year. And, we still got a lot more to fight for. And so we're looking forward to having those fans with us the rest of the way.
All right, Coach Lind, thanks so much for the time. And it's hard to believe it, but our next show is going to be talking about the MAAC tournament. How about that?
Not bad, man. Not bad. We got here. Thanks, Adam.
That's the Donny Lind, our Donny Lind Show, presented by Educational Systems Federal Credit Union. My name is Adam Pohl. Have a great week, everyone.